Congratulations to one of the inaugural Crows, obviously like Chris, been here from the start. For the first 14 seasons of the footy club, Nigel Smart just cruised across the top of the surface like a big cat. He played in a couple of flags, was twice runner-up in the best and fairest, as you saw. He was the first All-Australian for the football club. In fact, he had 20 career games under his belt and he was All-Australian, which, along with Andy McKay, is a record. Here he is already, Smarty. Good to see you, mate. We didn't have to call you up.
I'm keen.
Very good, mate. And of course, now, Smarty, just come up here for a moment. One thing about Nigel too, we know all about your contribution. Come front and centre, mate. This is your night. His contribution on the field, which was remarkable and an absolute star of the club. But Nigel goes right across. As soon as he finished playing, he was on the board and was vice chairman at a stage as well. He was a vice captain of the footy club during the premiership years, and then was the COO for 7 years. And when you think of that time in those 7 years, the introduction of getting the AFLW licence, which was fantastic, and of course that magnificent move to what we see now of the Adelaide Oval. So not just a star on the field, also in the boardroom and also in the executive of the club. Ladies and gentlemen, Nigel Smart, well done, mate. Congratulations. Smarty, I'll hold on to you and then we'll have a special guest waiting for you up on the couch in a moment.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. It's been a good one. Chris, I really liked your chat then. It brought back memories. I forgot about Surge. Those early days were really influential. I was a young guy. Chris used to be my coach at Glenelg under-15s. I started Resilience when he actually cut me from the squad and I had to go to South Adelaide. That was a long time ago. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Adelaide Football Club Board, Chairman John Olsen, the Adelaide Footy Club Heritage Committee, I think the table's over there somewhere, Chair John Reid, Crows Foundation Chair Kate Teal, Hall of Fame members, and congrats, Chris, you're thoroughly deserving of your induction. You were a leader back then. It was a strange time for football. It was marvellous for a young guy like me to come into that type of environment. There were lots of identities, a lot of clubs. We had Port Adelaide, we had Glenelg, we had Nord, we had South Adelaide. It was quite amazing. I was just young and influential. I just followed the pack. But we were the Sandfell, and we were their representative team. After 29 years, it's a long time as a player, board member, and then part of the executive team. On reflection, there are so many relationships and so many stories. But I see my role and actions as part of my service to the club. And it's not what I get for this service, but what I become from it. And I'm a better person for it. I do want to acknowledge Sarah, my wife. We've been together for over 30 years. She's been amazing. I used to love it when I used to come home from an AFL game and she'd go, how did you go, dear? And I'd say, oh, we had a tough game against North Melbourne. And she'd say, what colours are those? Sarah was amazing because she was she wasn't in the scene. She was away from the scene, and it was just that kind of ability for me to talk and not get too caught into the, hey, I'm in the AFL. So thank you, Sarah. My children, Jeremiah, India and Noah, they're all growing up so quick. To my mum and dad, gee, they're loyal and proud. I wish my father, Gerald, was around to see the grand finals. He would be proud. To my former and current coaches, players and support staff who have been part of the moments of my career over the years, thank you for the time we shared. There's heaps of you. It's hard to actually distill it down into people and relationships. But I do want to acknowledge a few individuals. To Graham Corns, he was the first coach. Thanks, GC. You allowed me the opportunity to play. Yes, the firewalking was your idea. I am sorry, I burnt my feet. And you weren't allowed to turn. You reckon you'd get away with fire walking today? Shit, no. To Malcolm Blight and John Reid, what a team. What a bloody team. Blighty, you were the best coach. When people ask me who is the best coach, I say Malcolm Blight. And they say, why is he the best coach? I say, because we won 2 premierships. It's really hard to win premierships. Super, super hard. We were there in 2017. It's going to be a while until we're there again. So for Malcolm, really, really grateful for what you did for the football club. And Reedy, you were good too. Often grumpy, but full of grit. And I like that. We won the 97-98 premierships. It's amazing what happens when someone comes in with capability and just moulds a team. We were super fit that year. It was terrific. I do get a grin though, like they asked me about my 3 songs. They said, oh, what songs do you like? And my first song was Johnny Cash, Burning Ring of Fire, because of the fire walking. My second song was David Bowie, Major Tom. And the reason it's Major Tom is because Malcolm called me a space cadet back in '99. And I didn't take that as a problem. I just took that on board as, yeah, maybe I was a bit of a space cadet back then. I had lots to learn. I'd like to thank Billy Sanders. He's probably on holidays again. I know he's not here tonight, but I want to thank Bill for... he actually took me aside in 2004. I just finished my career. It was a really tough time back then. I had an enormous ego. But Bill said to me, hey, why don't you come and sit on the board? And I had 7 great years on the board. It was terrific stuff. I learned a lot out of Bill over that period of time. To Rob and Faye Gerard, I know they're here. I haven't said hello yet. I'll come say hello after. I think Chris touched on a really important point. In the inaugural years, we were developing a culture. We were a bit weird as well. Because we're a new club, we're trying different things. We couldn't win a game with Cornsey Interstate. We were shocking. But what I want to say about Rob and Faye was Rob and Faye were very generous. They had high values and they were caring. And every year they would just provide an outlet for the players. And we had some superb times with Rob and Faye with their hospitality. I just want to say thank you. Sarah and I still love meeting and seeing you, and it means a lot. To Stephen Trigg, he was CEO when I started as Chief Operating Officer, and I'll tell you a little story with Stephen. I recall ringing Triggy when he was on holidays and playing golf, and I said to Stephen, hey, I think we've got a problem with this state jumper that we want to wear in the first game at Adelaide Oval. And gee, was that an understatement. The phones were melting. Everyone was up and about it. Ironically, Bianca and Ian Shuttleworth, he was starting his first day as General Manager of Media and Comms. And it was quite funny that he and I were sitting on the carpet in a room of the Adelaide Football Club worrying about this state jumper and how pear-shaped it was going. So for Stephen, thank you. He was a terrific leader. Ian, sorry to put you through that on your first day, but suck it up. To Rob Chapman, thanks, Rob. Rob has been enormous. He's been a terrific leader. He asked me to consider actually applying for the Chief Operating Officer's role. I've had a wonderful 8 years in that role. We've done some fantastic things off-field. I think, Rob, memorable moments for me were the Adelaide Oval Agreement, moving all our members and fans to Adelaide Oval. It was a really hard traditional change, and I think it's underpinned our commercial success for years to come. So thanks, Rob, for your efforts around that. I do want to acknowledge Andrew Fagan. I worked with Andrew for some 7 years, and look, we had some great times and there were some challenging times as well. I do want to call out the good times, which were, and probably to John Olsen's comments about women's football, partnering with the Northern Territory, signing an MOU with those guys and securing our AFL women's licence was such a big prize and continues to deliver, winning multiple AFLW premierships and really driving the discussion about women and diversity and equality. When I was on the board, I actually said I think boards should be 50-50 in terms of women-men ratios. Still working on that. Okay, we'll see if we can get there one day. I'm nearly finished. To Gary Winter, past chair of the foundation, the Crows Foundation, and Kate Teal, current chair. I spent 7 years on the board of the Crows Foundation. Thank you for believing in the new growth strategy of the foundation, including its first program funded, which is STEM footy. And finally, I do want to acknowledge the late Bob Ford. Bob was a super bloke. I really enjoyed Bob because he was enthusiastic, and as Malcolm Blight says, if you act enthusiastic, you will be enthusiastic, and that's what this bloke was. He was super enthusiastic, but he's passed and he's very much missed. Bob always believed in me, and I felt like after meeting with Bob, I could do anything. So I just want to acknowledge Bob. And in closing, I do wish the current Adelaide Football Club exec and its CEO Tim Silvers and coach Matthew Nix and his team all the best for the season ahead. It's been fascinating to watch it unfold and for the future years. I know when I was on the board, what used to give me the absolute shits was a coach that doesn't play young talent, and I was always advocating for playing young talent on the board, as we spend a lot of money on identifying and recruiting for talent, and because the young talent coming through, that's where you get incremental improvement from, and that's where you get these jumps in improvement, and it's good to see the club moving in this direction again. Hey, I'm really proud, I'm stoked. I've had a terrific time at the football club. It's been a long journey, but a fascinating journey. Chris, it'd be great to see you at the club more often. Okay, it gives me the shits that you're not there. And enjoy the night. And on my table, I just want to acknowledge my table. They're all here tonight. I'm sorry I didn't talk about your 80s songs. I couldn't include them in the speech, so bad luck.
Nigel, well said. Nigel, take a seat because we've got your premiership teammate, Rod Jamison, joining us because obviously you and Jamo go way, way, way back before football days at the Crows. Jamo, welcome along. Good to see you here. Jamo looking magnificent too. Hasn't let anyone down in the fashion stakes. There's your mic there, Nigel. Now, boys, let's go back, way back, because long before football, you two were playing cricket against each other. You were at Christie's Beach and at Morford Vale cricket clubs. Nigel, just give us a little understanding, because Jamo said that he described himself as express. Did you have much difficulty facing up to Jamo when he'd come in, maybe open or off the first change?
Jamo was, can you hear me? Jamo was pretty quick. Like, as a young cricketer, he was very, very fast. And it's all a bit weird, right? Because I played cricket with Jamo. I played footy with Jamo.
Yep.
I started at South Adelaide with Mark Bickley. I went to primary school with Tony Modra. I bought my first dog off the Modra family. They gypped us. Weird stuff like that is happening, and I kind of just go, I don't understand why. It's all kind of, is it just Adelaide? Everything's incestuous?
Yes, it is Adelaide. Well, we know that. It's, everyone's within a half a degree of separation.
But Rodney would like me to say that, yes, he was express. So I'm going to say that.
Now, both of you boys now have moved on because you're now still aligned from those primary school age days, because you're now with the Southern District Cricket Club working together as well, which is quite remarkable. So you two are like umbilical twins, really.
Well, I don't know if there's any Adelaide Cricket Club supporters here, but yeah, we were going to merge with Adelaide Cricket Club. We stopped the merger, and We're now building out what the plan is ahead. I'm now the president. Gemmo's media and ops, and we're trying to build out a cricketing dynasty.
Gemmo,
Did you know that Carl Hooper? Do you know Carl Hooper?
Yeah, Carl Hooper from the West Indies.
Yeah, he's our coach.
Yeah, it's fantastic. He's been here for a little while, hasn't he? I think he married a...
See, that's what I mean. You just don't know. We've got to get Carl out there. Come on.
Right, now, Gemmo, tell us, I think when Nigel started, like we said, he was an All-Australian after the first season as a young man. And I think just the way he played, and he just, like we said before, he just coasted across the ground and was terrific back and forward. As a teammate, though, what was he like watching him from the inside point of view?
Look, he was a freak in terms of his ability as past players or players at the time. Nigel sort of got this cat-like movement, and we always used to stand behind him and try and stand in his footsteps when he was running. And it was always like 1.5 feet or 2 foot further ahead. We just couldn't do it. So in terms of cricket, you know, we talk, if you think about Roger Harper from the West Indies, he was a bit sort of like that, just the way he moved. And certainly from a cricket perspective, you know, he batted sort of middle order and came on at third change and sort of bowled, and he was a gully fieldsman and had a really strong arm. And, you know, from a footballer, he's, you know, you've certainly seen his athleticism over the time. In that first year, I've attended some functions where Jason Dunstall has spoken and said that Nigel's one of the hardest players to actually stand as a defender, and to be our inaugural All-Australian in 1991 and then to go on to another two, and to be as versatile as he was.
It wasn't fun for Gemmo and I being defenders back then. All right, it was just hard.
You know, but on that, and we, you know, talked about Chris from his greatest memory being that first match against Hawthorn. So you guys have been playing some great SNFL footy. You come in, Nigel, you're facing Jason Dunstall, who's obviously a champion. You're at fullback and you're a kid. He had a great game too, by the way. I think he only kicked 2. But how was it for you coming into a game like that, standing against someone you would have watched on TV, still as a young man? Because it looked like the club just seamlessly entered the competition.
Don't take this the wrong way, but every game you played, you probably were standing someone elite.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure if it's like that today, but back then you were standing Jason Dunstall one week. The next week it might be a Gary Ablett Senior. The next week it might be a Stephen Kernahan.
Tony Lockett.
A Tony Lockett. They just seem to be the game, and this is why I'm probably a conservative one with rule changes. I'm anti-rule changes and think the AFL have done a terrible job on changing rules and not really understanding the consequence of rule changes, because the game fabric changes so much that in the end now those dominant full forwards, they're potentially getting back to it. We're few and far between. And so I'd like to see that come back into the game, where you've got forwards kicking multiple goals on multiple occasions. It's just spectacular. One of the highlights for me playing in the club at full-back was, or in back pocket, when often when I didn't work, I'd say, Gemmo, you have to take my spot. But it was looking down the other end and seeing Tony Modra. I remember Vic Park, Tony Modra taking hangers at Vic Park and being in awe. So it was just a spectacular time.
Gemmo, with that, now I mean this with all respect, Nigel, when I say it, but there was always a swagger about the way you went about things. And I think that was just obviously a confidence as well. Blighty said Space Cadet. But I want to know, from your point of view, Gemmo, with Nigel, what was he like as a teammate? Because you saw this external sort of perception of him. How did you see it?
I guess it was funny when you talk about Sarah. I actually spoke to Sarah tonight and just went up and said, "Hey, nice to see you, congratulations." She said, "I don't even know what the night's about," you know. And I think at times, that's how Nigel approached his game, and I think we don't always do that until we become a little bit more mature or spend more time in the game. And you know, you get into a routine, you train, but the harder you train, you're not really making progress or getting better. Whereas if you're a bit smarter around how you do things, you could probably improve a lot quicker. And I think it might have been early, Nige, 92, 93, there was even a chance that you were going to stop playing footy and head overseas.
Yeah, John Reid has a lot to do with this because we lost 26 games in a row at South Adelaide.
Yeah.
And when you lose a lot, it affects your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But losing for me was part of the getting better.
Yep.
So there was an element for me that I didn't get caught into, well, I'm standing Tony Lockett this week or Gary Ablett. I should be worried about that. It was more, I've got a job to do. I'll just go into the game, do my best and see how it comes out and not hang on to the content that the media puts out there that serves up, because if you listen to it, that voice in your head starts to agree with it or starts to think about it. And I think I've been very good at trying to just not listen to all the noise. And I think a lot of players do listen to the noise, and for the players out there now, there's a hell of a lot of noise, whatever platform you want to listen to. So just managing that is a key component, I think.
Good advice. So at one point when you thought Nige was going to go, you had to step in, Jamo, didn't you, with the club?
Well, I sort of made some calls at the time, and I think I phoned KG to actually try and make some noise, and a long friend of ours. And
well, he wasn't going to listen by the sound of it.
No, well, he was genuinely, I don't know whether there was...
Do you know what my first contract was worth? It was $8,000. Okay,
the whole year, as an All-Australian.
Yeah, so the club was playing, they were playing a bit tight. And so in the end, it was just a matter of just meeting at a equitable position. I'm an equitable guy, so it was just one of, well, yeah, I would love to travel in my 20s and have that experience, or I'd love to play AFL.
Yep.
So I just wanted to create a bit of noise externally because it was one where I was a bit worried that we genuinely knew how good he was and how good he could play, and at the time maybe the club was bluffing a little bit, but he would have called their bluff and walked off had it not been acceptable.
Yeah. So you were genuinely comfortable to go and do something else, Nige?
Yeah. And I don't like pulling those strings.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Reedy ringing up towards the end of my career, and I said, I resign, call the press conference. And that's because I was managing myself. And it was, well, if that's the position, then I'll resign. He rang me up later on and said, let's just sort this out. But I'm just an honest guy that wants an equitable outcome. And that's in life as well.
How honest were you in most pre-seasons when we used to do our 5-1Ks, and pre-season without fail you would stand on cones purposely, then miss like 2 or 3 weeks of training? Guarantee it, every pre-season.
Training was tough, and I must admit, there are guys out there that are elite runners. Matthew Liptak was an elite runner. He wouldn't do any pre-season training and just come out and be amazing. I had to work really hard at it, and these guys would pay me out because I just wasn't that good. So it was just hard work, and I didn't mind pre-season, but I just had to work at it.
I think it was under Graham once we had to do a beep test, so you had to, I think you had 30 seconds to get to the start of the line, and then there was a cone at 20 metres, and then there was a cone every metre after it. Yep. And then once the 30 seconds are called, they'd measure how far you went, and you had to do 20 of them. And so we anticipated that you got to get through all. Nige just stopped after 12 and just walked off, and in the spirit of what I guess what it was meant to be is you're meant to go as hard as you possibly can to get the measurement right. He just said, I just can't do any more. Oh, I'm done. 12, I'm walking off. And that was it.
Well, you done what you needed to do, wasn't it? Just push yourself.
Well, he missed the last 8, like everybody else did, but he just chose to walk off.
It depends on how you interpret what was told to you. So I did my best, and you guys kept on, I don't know, you kept on kind of coasting, all right, so you can get a bigger score.
Before we just wrap up here and get into the main course, I asked Graham about Chris. When you think of Nigel and you think of what he was like on the football field, what's the first thing that comes to your mind, Jamo?
Look, his ability to be able to... He was uncanny. He genuinely was uncanny. I think we all laughed at watching him get angry at himself if things weren't going that well, and he'd sort of storm around, but his ability to be able to manoeuvre either end, have some fun. Look, he was in and out of the shower post-game before most blokes had got their footy boots off. Like, come on, let's go, let's get out. We're out of here. Let's get out of the place. But, 3 All-Australians, and played for 14 seasons, and for 13 of those he played 17 games or more, and it wasn't until his last year that he played 6 and he'd retired. So I guess the durability, the flexibility, and the ability to stand who he did for the longevity of what he played, and it's testament today to be recognised accordingly.
Well, Nigel, it's a remarkable story because we said it's not just on the field, it's off the field in the boardroom, it's in the executive offices as well that you've had 29 years. It's almost like you've been institutionalised. You're a bit like...
Stop it. No.
What is next now after 29 years?
Were you going to politics again?
No, I'm not going to go into politics. But we're all in politics anyway. What I will say is I've enjoyed my service to the club, and I've learned a lot. I've got more out of my service to the club than the club's given me. So I'm really thankful for that, and I'm looking forward to continuing my involvement in the club in different capacities. But at the moment, I'm taking time to step back to go, wow, that's terrific. I want the team to progress and win. I want the coaches to develop. And I want the club administration and the board, even Jamo's on the board, to foster the next generation of what does growth look like. Because I remember having an executive meeting at the club, and I said to the club, I think we've got to take the COVID situation in China quite seriously. And I remember Andrew Fagan looking at me going, are you serious? And I always remember that moment because it was a point of where we're at now in terms of mitigation of risk. And it's amazing how things change. And I think from a society point of view, yeah, we've just got to do our best as best as we can right now. And that's the same for the Adelaide Footy Club. And I think they're going in the right direction.
Nigel, congratulations. I think if someone has to play you in the Nigel Smart story and they make a movie, I've always thought it's John Malkovich, because he's same sort of look, but there's always that...
No, I agree.
It's not aloof, Nigel. It's like you're busy with thinking of other stuff.
I like him.
Yeah,
He's
so
good.
That's always who I thought. Every time I look at you, you remind me of John Malkovich.
No, thank you.
No worries.
I'm going to try and think who you should be.
I think we should get on and have our main course. Nigel Smart, congratulations, mate. Wonderful contribution.
Thank you.
Jamo, great to see you again.